Good morning. We're here to talk about the 2025-2026 budget that was handed down last night. What do you think?
There's a few interesting things coming out for businesses as well, or lack thereof, I should probably say. I think we might start off on some of the personal tax cuts. Gabby, what are the changes and what do they mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first tax cut that we have seen is for individuals. They've dropped that down from 16% down to 15%, but it actually doesn't come into play until 1st of July 2026. So we really have to wait 18 months for that to come in to help people. Yeah,
and it's only a couple of $100 over the course of a year. I'm hearing it's about 78 cents a day or something like that. It's not going to be ground shattering by any means, and it's probably just going to offset at best bracket creep that we often get as people enter into new tax brackets. So it's no big change. It's going to be, as you said, about 15 months before anyone sees any dollars and cents from it.
And I really feel that is just an election try and grab. Just with it, 5 to 6 weeks away, it's really just trying to get those votes in, I feel.
Yeah, and I think this is coming back to another announcement, was the Medicare levy thresholds are increasing. I mean, really, this should just be an automatic indexation anyway, and that's pretty much what it is. I mean, Medicare levy thresholds, for those who don't know, if you're a low-income earner or a low-income family, you don't pay Medicare levy for many cases. So they're just indexing that a little bit, but it's nothing groundbreaking or shattering really there.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that they're doing to help is the energy bill relief. So they're just extending that. It's another $75 per quarter till the end of the year. It just happens through the electricity companies. Again, it's not actually fixing the real problem, but I won't complain about getting a few extra dollars in the bank.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that this is one of probably the only things that's going to also benefit small business. So small business will also benefit from the $75 per quarter. Like you said, that doesn't make even a dent on business costs when we've got skyrocketing insurances and rents and wages and things like that. But I guess it's something, maybe. What are the changes to the HECS debt?
Yeah, so the government are going to write off 20% of the help debt out there. An interesting one. I definitely feel one to get younger voters in there. A little controversial, I feel, because you only start paying that back once you start earning money. And so who's it really helping? I just feel that they could have done different measures to help people. I just don't know whether that's the right way to go. And I know we might have differing opinions on that.
Yeah, look, I think it's an interesting one. I think it's one that doesn't hurt the budget bottom line, as in if you get rid of a debt, well, that doesn't make the repayments any different. So in the short term, the government still collects all the money from all these young people with HECS payments. It doesn't change anything fundamentally too much for the budget. So it's a nice, easy vote spinner. They can cut 20% off people's HECS debts. Is it fair? I don't know if it is, because it's just if you've got a large HECS debt balance now, you get 20% wiped off. But if you're about to enter your university career, there's still a large amount of HECS debt going up. And it seems to me that with each generation, the HECS debts just get larger and larger, which from my perspective just makes it harder for young people to enter into the property market. They leave university with huge HECS debts, huge repayments, makes it harder to save a deposit, makes it harder to get financing for your first home. So I would really challenge both sides to really attend to this in a more permanent and practical way. If we're talking about cost of living pressures on young people, HECS is a big part of the equation, in my opinion.
Look, we've spoken about young people. If we look at the other flip side, the older generation, PBS has changed, so the affordability of the pharmaceuticals is coming down, nothing over $25. I think that's a really good win. For those that are ill, I mean, let's face it, it's expensive out there. There's great relief for women out there that are suffering from endometriosis, women going through menopause. Being a female, I certainly welcome that government is trying to look into this a little bit more and support people.
Yeah, it's probably well overdue, really. And the other thing is that they're extending bulk billing and doing more funding in relation to bulk billing, which I think is a good thing. All right, so what about childcare, Gabby? Any changes to childcare?
Yeah, so this is a big one for me. Childcare using the system at the moment, they're removing the activity test for up to 3 days. So you can now get subsidised childcare for 3 days with no activity test at all. That's an interesting one. I think there are other changes that they could do to the childcare system out there around the subsidy and support. You know, I go to work 5 days a week, and just the cost of that is astronomical. It's that measurement that I find more challenging than the activity test.
Yeah, I think we've still got a big issue with childcare in encouraging particularly women back into the workforce, and I just don't think that childcare subsidies as they are now do enough for that, and I think that's probably your main point here.
Absolutely. But what is good is that there is funding going to the childcare educators. I think that is well overdue. They certainly don't get paid enough for what they do. And, you know, I think that's a good call.
Now, for me, I think the big thing is some of this business stuff. And it's not all good news. Actually, it's quite bad news, I think, for small businesses. Yeah. The big thing that sort of hidden in there was around non-compete clauses. Now, the Labor government, you know, probably with a bit of backing of the unions, I would say, have come out with that they would like to ban non-compete clauses. Gabby, what's your opinion on this?
Look, I think that really hurts small business. We're in small business. We own a business. We're about supporting our employees. We're not about doing the bad thing by them to benefit us. That's not our ethos, and I don't think that is many business people's ethos out there. And we have a rule that you can't stop people from earning income. So no matter what your current non-compete clause might be, it's very much argued anyway from distance to times, that sort of thing. You can't stop someone from earning income. I just don't know whether it's really necessary. I think it's actually a really tough call to put non-competes, especially if the person's next door to your business. And if you've built up someone's profile and you invest in your employees, like many businesses do, I know we sure do, I think that really hurts business.
Absolutely. And I think it devalues business as well. Like, we all know when we're doing business valuations, those non-compete clauses for key employees is really important and valuable.
So along with the non-compete clauses that they've introduced, they're also bringing in a no-poach agreement to block staff being hired by competitors. I think that's a really interesting one, and again, tough for business. So I think what that means is that if someone leaves your organisation, often it's in a contract that they can't then poach your staff. Well, I think that's what's being abolished. So if someone leaves your organisation, they can come and take your staff with them. Yeah. Is that the way you interpret it?
That's the way I interpret it. So again, it's going to really devalue small business goodwill. You know, when we're talking about valuing businesses, I'm really imagining small businesses are going to be really devalued from these policies if they are implemented. I personally think they're going too far, that I don't think they will get through Parliament. I don't think they'll get through Senate, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. It depends on what the Senate's made of.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing, which is a big concern, is the small business asset write-off. We've had it for over a decade now of being, at one stage it was unlimited. You could write off assets for tax purposes without limits for small businesses. Now that might be coming to an end for the first time in a very long time. So maybe from July, it seems that it's going to revert to $1,000 instant asset write-off.
Yeah, well, let's not forget they still haven't passed last year's small asset write-off extension. It hasn't gone to government yet.
Yeah, and if government's going to be dissolved in this weekend, which I think is likely, then it's going to be a rush for the new Parliament to put it into place. So watch this space.
And again, I think it's an easy win for the Liberals to come out and do something around, the small instant asset write-off. It doesn't really cost the government anything, and I think the benefit on business is huge.
Absolutely.
So being in Western Sydney, I think it's also to point out, not from a business perspective, but the government is putting in a lot of money into our infrastructure out here for us.
Yeah, there is a Western Sydney infrastructure plan, which is, I think it's 50% funded by state, 50% funded by federal. There's obviously the airport going in. So there's a lot of infrastructure projects. A lot of housing development goes on in Western Sydney. So it's really needed. So that will have hopefully some flow-on effects for businesses in the Western Sydney area.
Yeah, you're right.
The other thing on superannuation related is that there was nothing really new announced for superannuation, but I think many people will be happy that the $3 million super balance tax, that additional 15% tax, has not passed Senate, and it's not going to pass Senate. So that's kind of not going ahead really at all. So that's good relief for those people who do have large super balances, and should give some confidence to people to continue putting in superannuation contributions.
Absolutely. Well, for the budget, at the end of the day, it's not overly that exciting. It's not great for small business, let's be real. And it'll be really interesting to see what the Liberal answer with.
Yeah. I think the big thing for me in this is that neither Labor, and we'll see about Liberal, but they're not really prepared to tackle deficits or balance a budget. We've got deficits for the next 10 years. I would really like to see the Liberals come out saying, we're going to tackle these deficits, and this is what, and we're going to be upfront about how we're going to do it. And maybe we can also offer some real cost of living benefits, real ones. Liberal has a potential to have a real point of difference here that Labor had provided with a budget that's a little bit, it's not really doing too much. It'll be interesting to see.
Good for an election.
Great for an election. That's it.
Have a good day.